Welcome to episode 333 of In Touch with iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg, and I've got a great full panel this week, including two awesome guests. Our first guest here this week is Guy Serle. He's back. How you doing, Guy?
Doing fine. I've been to Florida. I'm fit. I'm tan. I'm ready to go.
Yes. Well, okay, you seem in a good mood after having a nice long vacation. So glad you're here.
Yeah, it was fun.
Also glad I'm here is Erickson, who's making a return appearance on the show. How you doing, Eric? From Mike Azzoli. How you doing?
Good. I haven't been to Florida and I'm not fit, but I'm still feeling good. So that's I'm happy to be here.
All that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And as always, our regular contributors, I'm glad Marty Jencius made it back on the show. How you doing, Marty?
Thursday's my favorite day of the week, particularly when work is over and I could spend time with this panel and just having fun.
Even with me.
Yep, we're good.
Yeah, with you, Guy, you're always a fun surprise.
Okay.
Chaos.
That was a really nice way to say that.
Speaking of a fun surprise, Jeff Gamet is here. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, and I'm not tan. And no surprise, I never will be.
No,
yeah.
neither.
Yeah. Oh, so glad everybody's here this week. We've got plenty to talk about in touch with Vision Pro this week, and as well as beta. There was some pretty serious security upgrades we're going to talk about. Jeff having a bit of a saga with his HomeKit and talking with Apple. We'll talk about that and a number of other topics and news. But let's go ahead and get started here. The first thing, as we do every week now, we've been doing In Touch with Vision Pro. First off, Apple did release Vision OS 2.1.1 for those of you who are not on beta. It was a very minor update to the Vision OS 2 operating system. That came out back in September, but it's 3 weeks after the launch of 2.1. It can be downloaded on all Vision Pro headsets by navigating to the Settings app, the general section, choose your software updates. I'm already thinking in my head now, it's pinching and moving, and it works right into that. So. And there's a software progress bar available in the front eyesight display. It focuses mostly on security fixes rather than new features, but recommended that you should update if you don't do beta. So I know neither one of us, Marty or myself, we're already all in on beta for Vision Pro. So I don't have you heard anything? Did you guys discuss any of this last week or this past
week?
We
didn't discuss this public beta on Vision Profiles, but we did the beta 2.2.3, excuse me, for the developer betas. The public beta, as you said, it seems to be just patching vulnerabilities from web browsing functionality, and then including enhanced checks to prevent malicious JavaScript code from executing. And we know Apple has been wrestling with that this week in terms of releases, and then some cookie management. And it's the holidays, so we all need to have cookie management.
We do. As you said, it was just a week after Vision OS 2.2 beta 2 was out, so this is now beta 3. Again, we've been spouting this out. The Mac Virtual Display is one of the OG features of App and Visual Pro, but however, with its new wide and ultra-wide modes, the spatial computing offers a more and more immersive experience. I don't know, Eric, have you tried? I know with you being the Mac aficionado as you are, did you ever get the demo on Vision Pro and try this?
No, I still want to, but I haven't tried it out at all. So
yeah, we got to have you join our club here and try it out. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
go ahead, Gary.
Am I the only one without Vision Pro?
You are not.
You are not. It's just Marty and I that have Vision Pros.
No.
Yeah. So you're.
But
okay.
You are the only one with a Fort Lauderdale hat. So feel good about that.
People have told me that I'm special my whole life.
The 2.2.3 beta developer update had they had some issues with Firefox and videos through Firefox, which got fixed with this, and being able to hear the sound through the Vision Pro speakers. And they did some improvements to the Mac Virtual Display, which has gone from that's interesting to absolutely amazing in terms of the quality of what you can do with it.
Yep, for sure. A couple more things I wanted to mention real quick is Apple Vision Pro doesn't need something bigger than a software update. It's going to probably take a lot more and computing into a major platform. This was an article in Mac Mac World, and
Same thing.
And you guys did talk about this on Vision Profiles, but I wanted you to share it with this audience of what's it bringing to the table, as well as the software is still awkward and limiting. Do you agree with that?
For people who don't spend a lot of time with it, I don't feel any awkwardness with it. I'm not expecting a lot out of it right now. So I'm really happy with what it can do. I do my mail on it. I watch some really great videos on it. I do some plan on it with OmniPlan. I manage basically my schedule in the morning or schedule in the evening for the next day, and then use it as an entertainment device. So I'm not expecting it to do, although there are people doing 3D modeling on it. It's just Macworld is kind of, I don't know what the purpose of this was other than to get clicks.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So then lastly, what I want to do is spend more of Marty's money here. I found this new dock stand for the Apple Vision Pro. It's made by a company called Upergo. It does have a stand with a battery holder. It actually stands the Vision Pro up towards the ceiling instead of the one I've got that I showed earlier, previous that faces you. This looks like a pretty nice stand, and it looks like it's a metal stand, so it's got built pretty nice and good stability. And we have a link in the show notes. Our affiliate link is there. So go check it out if something you're interested in. For those of you who have Vision Pro, did you get tempted by this yet?
I got tempted, and then I said,
Why?
I need to get a second Vision Pro because you already convinced me to buy the one that you showed that I have now in the back behind me that kind of sets it it's the 3D printed and really quite solid piece.
Yeah.
But that looks attractive, but I just need to have another place to put it in the house where my dog won't get to it.
Be chewing on it. Yeah. So that's pretty much it for Vision Pro this week. Wanted to make sure I discuss these very important security updates that were released this past week. iOS 18.1.1 and iPadOS 18.1.1, as well as Mac OS Sequoia 15.1.1 was released. They released this up for these users, for all those users for iPhone and for iPad. It's major security updates in here and giving you a lot of crazy stuff that's happening here with vulnerabilities. And there's a link in the show notes as far as that vulnerability goes. Go out, update this. You should not even think about jumping on this thing and getting it because it's very important. They also released it for iOS 17.7. That's now 17.7.2 for the older devices. A lot of bad exploited issues here. So you got to go up and update this. Can anybody not agree with me on this?
Update.
Absolutely agree.
Do it.
Being on these shows, I'm a little bit more sensitive to paying attention to this. I would think maybe the average person might not notice it or know the story behind it in terms of the vulnerabilities. But now it's sort of like when I get the notice or read the story, just go around from device to device and make the changes right away.
Just update it. Yeah, don't even waste time on it. This is not a beta. This is something that's super important. There's a lot of
has there ever been a beta security release?
No, I don't think so.
There have been
weird.
There have been security patches included in beta releases, but I don't recall ever seeing a beta release that's just for security.
Well, it's for a virus that's not quite ready yet.
Oh, that makes sense.
The virus is still in beta yet.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So it's all over the press. So if you haven't even heard about this already, I mean, I'll give them a little bit of details of what the issues is. One of them was an issue with JavaScript Core, which is a framework that allows your iPhone to run JavaScript code. Apple had wrote that the interacting with the malicious crafted web content could lead to arbitrary code execution. The other was with WebKit, Apple's in-house developed internet browser engine used in Safari. Apple wrote that if you interact with a maliciously crafted web content, it could lead to cross-site scripting attack. So some two pretty serious security flaws then that they jumped on it. I mean, it made it to the security the security teams out there, and they just when it goes there, this is serious. So please go upgrade. Don't waste your time. Just do it. Do it. Yeah. So like I just talked about beta this week again. Apple has now released the 4th beta of iOS 18.2 with more Genmoji, Image Playground, and ChatGPT integration. Public betas are also available with this as well as the macOS. I'll say it, macOS tall trees, as Jeff says. 15.2 updates to developers testing purposes all this week for so that's been on a roll here with this. With Image Playground, Image Wand, and Genmoji, and Siri ChatGPT integration, visual intelligence, and the writing tools, and all kinds of stuff. Marty, I know you've tried Image Playground. Have you tried it on this latest beta?
Yeah. Eric on our last show said he wanted to take a picture of him in a bubble bath with candles surrounded.
That's disturbing.
And so, of course, without thinking, I took him up on it, and I took one of my pictures and put me in a bubble bath with candles surrounding me, and I sent it to him. And then I realized the creep factor on that was pretty high.
I hope you didn't post that on social media.
So now you can use it for your holiday cards.
Forgets.
Yeah, your holiday cards.
Yeah, we have one of those skylight things downstairs, that calendar, and then it runs through pictures, and I've put my persona on it, which just freaks my wife out when it comes up, and I think this will be the next thing.
Oh yeah, the persona on Vision Pro is that they need. That's a lot of work. That's a big work in progress. Eric, are you dabbled anything in beta on Mac OS at all with Sequoia?
Very little. I've used, I've kind of played around with the writing tools, and actually not just a whole lot. Not as far as Apple Intelligence and that sort of thing, which is the whole deal. I have 18.2 on my machine or on the phone, but I don't. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you're doing beta on iOS? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Me too.
So
notification.
You're on beta,
summaries.
Guy? Really?
I went ahead and went beta on just the phone, the phone, and I played around with Image Playground a little bit and tried to get it to make a pirate head on me. It did not turn out well.
Well, you're always putting those image generations on my Mac every week, so
yeah.
Why not try it on there, right?
Maybe, but it's harder than it should be to get your own picture into some of these services, depending on which ones you use. So
yeah,
plus also, do I really want to put an image that an AI has decided to manipulate of myself out there? It's like, no, I don't think I want.
That's a yeah, we got to question that, right?
It's not easy being me.
It is not.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, that's right. Well, go ahead.
I was going to say notification summaries are about the most exciting thing I've found with the AI integration. Getting a group of emails from a bunch of people and having them summarized in a notification. It's like, okay, I know what's going on. I don't need to fluff through that email right now.
Yeah. A couple things that were found in iOS 18.2 beta 4 is Apple has added the camera control settings from the accessibility menu to a new accessibility submenu in the main camera control settings pane, I should say. And then the same options are also continue to exist in the main accessibility settings pane. When scrubbing a video in the Photos app, the timestamp now shows milliseconds. How important that was. But the profile picture icons in the Mail app are smaller than it was in Beta 3. So this is why it's beta. You start to play with things you think might be a little better. But so those kind of one of the few things that did stand out in this version of the beta. So anything else you guys want to add?
I still have to go back and see if I can, at this point, erase my head from photos.
Even the ones in bubble baths?
Yeah. just take my head off. I tried to do it, and all it did was pixelate it. So.
Yeah. It just makes people even more curious.
Yeah. Yeah. That poor man, he had to pixelate his face.
Yeah. So, let's move on to this interesting topic. Jeff brought this to my attention. I thought it'd be a great discussion on this. He has had quite a saga with HomeKit and getting things to work properly, and he's been on with Apple engineers. It's gotten to that level, which is a little crazy to get that level. You don't normally hear that happens, but
with me, it's a regular thing.
It's a regular thing for. Yeah, so give us a little bit of insight what's been happening with the HomeKit, because like I said, I know you're very well versed working with HomeKit, as well as HomePods. So it'd be interesting to hear what happened.
Well, okay, so the problem is that I cannot add new accessories to HomeKit, and
that is a problem.
This has been going on for a year, and at first I thought I was buying defective products, and then I'd send them back, and when I realized, no, it's every single thing I buy and try, I can't add into HomeKit, then I started to realize, okay, there's a different problem here, and it's not what I'm buying, it's HomeKit. And so I've done everything that I can think of, and there's a good chance if you're thinking, oh, I bet I know something you haven't tried. First, you're incredibly clever for coming up with that. But second, I probably already did it. I even went so far as to dig out an old Airport Extreme base station, because you can set that to have a discrete 2.4 gigahertz network. And so I reset my whole network so that it was just 2.4 gigahertz on this old base station. I went out and bought a brand new Apple TV to see if maybe I needed a newer bridge in the mix. And spoiler, neither of those things helped. So I took the Apple TV back. Stick with my older one for now. Anyhow, it got to the point where the other day I decided I've got AppleCare. I'm just going to call. And we started going through everything we could think of, and no luck. And finally we started pulling the analytic logs, like even from my Apple TV. And side note for this, Apple really needs to fix the interface for AirDrop on the Apple TV, because if you're like me and you've plugged it into Ethernet, well, that shuts off Wi-Fi. Right. You can't AirDrop over Ethernet. So what happens when you try and AirDrop one of these system logs to another device on your network, and the Apple TV's on Ethernet, it just gives you the waiting thing. That's it. And it will sit there until the sun goes supernova. It will never stop.
You'll never get it. Yep.
And so they need to fix that, because I sat there trying to get this stupid file to go to any of my other devices for like half an hour before I realized, oh, wait, I bet Airport is completely disabled on this thing because it's on Ethernet. Yeah. Turns out that was it. Unplugged the cable and boom, everything went. But so got a call back from Apple today, and they said, okay, looking at all the logs, there are 3 apps we want you to uninstall from your iPhone. The first one was Fing, which is a tool that lets you analyze your network and inventory everything that's on your network, and it has some other tools in it. Apparently, that app can do something that interferes with some of the regular network activity. So, boom, that was gone. Next one was an app called Home Assistant. And I had installed that when I was troubleshooting a few months ago and forgot it was there. And that can apparently conflict with some of the things that HomeKit is trying to do. So deleted it. That was gone. And then they said, would you be okay uninstalling TunnelBear so that we all know there's no VPN that's potentially interfering with anything on the network with your iPhone? And I'm like, okay, sure, because I can reinstall that, no problem. Anyhow, where we ended up getting with this was I dug through a box, found some old HomeKit accessories that I hadn't used for a long time. And what we discovered today is that when I go to add a HomeKit device, if it's a device that's new enough that it has a QR code, it will not add to HomeKit. But if the device is old enough that it's from the days before there's a QR code, so there's just the number that the camera would recognize and then just suck the number in, those will install. Yeah. So all of this is going back to the engineers, and they're just right now they're kind of stumped. Doing the log out of HomeKit, or excuse me, log out of iCloud and log back in, that hasn't helped, and of course that creates more problems than it can potentially fix. And the one thing that none of us want to do right now is have me completely reset HomeKit, because there's no guarantee that anything will work. And then also I have to reset up everything from scratch.
I said, cause a lot of extra work there.
Yeah. And if I have to do that, and I was upfront with Apple on this, it's like, if we're to the point where I need to completely reset HomeKit just to see if that might work, I'll reset it, but I'm going to take everything I have and move it over to Alexa, and then I'll just be done with HomeKit. Because if I have to set it up, I'm going to set it up someplace where I've never had this kind of problem. And I've been on the phone with Apple engineers on more than one occasion, working through really weird HomeKit problems. But it also shows HomeKit is incredibly fragile.
Yep.
It even after all these years, it is still not at a point where I feel comfortable recommending it to the general public, even though lots of people will swear by it. And why doesn't Apple let you back up your HomeKit database? You can use applications like Controller or Home Plus to back up your database. But even then, Apple blocks certain parts of the HomeKit database from backing up. So, and it's not like, oh, it just doesn't do that. No, this is a sort of thing where they had to have actively gone in to block you from having certain actions back up. So weird. Yeah. Anyhow, that's where we are right now. So I can remove or add really old devices that I had to dig out of a box, but anything that I want to add now, not happening.
2.4.
I just don't think home automation, on whether it's Apple or whether it's Google or some of the other players, is just, I don't think it's there yet. There's been so many problems with all of them. I mean, this is not entirely unlike digital assistants, especially back when they first started. Both Alexa and S Lady had lots of growing pains. S Lady still has lots of growing pains.
Yeah, so to say, Lady.
A couple of times that I have tried,
they all do,
just little things like switches and stuff like that in home. It's just been like, this is just so much more trouble than just getting up and turning on a light switch. It's just not worth it.
Yeah. You know what I think? Sorry, I was going to say, I think you're right. With Siri and HomeKit are pretty much, I mean, they're almost analogous to each other, just because, I mean, comparison to like Alexa and other standards. I mean, and I've tried to use HomeKit and I really like it. And I do use it for some stuff, but I'm kind of with Jeff. I just set up a thermostat with it. This was quite a while ago, but it took forever. I mean, it was just like I fought with it and then it finally worked, but it still drops out every now and then comes, and I do use, I mean, I have Hue light bulbs and I have other like Zigbee and Z-Wave stuff, and that all works pretty good. I mean, it's whatever, but HomeKit is a whole different thing. And I think it's because Apple's tried to make it so secure, and you know what? I don't know.
Well, they make it so secure, it's useless.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't even think the security part is the core problem here. I think it's that it is such a fragile framework that regardless of whatever security features it has, it is just ready to break at a moment's notice. And we're far enough into this that we shouldn't be at a point where I'm feeling like I'm still using alpha level technology. I wouldn't even consider it beta yet. It is just so wonky. And like I said, you can't even back it up unless you go to third-party tools. And you can't even get a full backup then either.
Next week, Thanksgiving, traveling, I will have to set up my house for some automation, at least lights on and off. The security system is already set up. That's all fine. Every time I've tried to dabble in HomeKit, it's like Jenga. You know, you never know what you're going to put in or what you're going to pull out is going to cause the whole thing to collapse. And I've avoided it as much as I can. And what I'll do for next week is the minimalist stuff, and most of it will probably go through A-Lady.
The A-Lady has a feature where you can tell it that you're in like vacation away mode.
Mm-hmm.
And then the lights that it has control over, it will start doing like random on and off in the evening. And if you're using Hue, just go into the Hue app instead of doing it in HomeKit. And there's a thing, it used to be called Hue Labs, but they don't call it that anymore. And there's a whole vacation mode that you can set up. And that is like rock solid. You just set it up, tell it, here are the dates, and here are the lights that I want you to include, and let it go. And it just works.
Yeah. I wind up going through and setting up some automation through the Alexa app in order to make it work for me. But it's, I also have an analog issue here with my wife going around and turning things on and off after I set them up. So, there comes a point where I have to tell her, don't touch anything. And then we run the automation when we're gone.
I'm going to dig out a couple links for you, Marty, that might help. One of the problems that I had for a long time was that I'm trying to tell people to do something that goes against what they have been taught their entire life, which is flip a light switch to turn it on and off.
Yeah.
Right.
And so finally I realized the fix isn't for me to try and retrain these people. It's to give them the ability to do what they want in a way that fits in with the rest of the ecosystem. It's like for my Hue bulbs, I bought a couple of the remote switches and then double sticky tape them to the wall by the light switches so they can just push a button, because they'll do that no problem. And the other thing, I'll get you a link for this. You can get these little covers that go over the regular light switch, but leave them open on the side. So if you still need to manually flip a switch, you can do it. But I found, cover those up like that. People have the visual, I'm not touching that. Here's this button on the wall. Now they just push that. And it was amazing. I didn't even have to do any training. It was just like, hey, I put a light switch button on the wall for you. Okay. And that was it. Never had a problem since.
Yep. That's it. That's a great idea.
Do you do in-home service and training? Like,
I wish.
Sure. And I'll send you my rate card.
Okay.
We'll make sure travel. We'll make sure those links get shared in the show notes if we could, Jeff.
I will dig those up for you.
Thank you.
I was going to just add one thing. That's a great thing that you said, Jeff, because that has happened in my house too. In fact, what I've done in the past is I've just put a Post-it note with the word "no" over a switch or over something, just so to keep people from shutting it off or turning it on, just because so like you said, that's what they're used to.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
And,
all right. So thank you for sharing that story with us, Jeff, and HomeKit. Your saga continues. And we'll have those links in the show notes.
For a while.
Never ends.
Yeah. And we'll include those links you mentioned in the show notes here. Next topic I want to talk about. We talked about this last week, and Apple did quietly added an inactivity reboot in iOS 18.1 to safeguard a lost or stolen iPhone. We did talk about this, and what it does is that when the iPhone goes unused for 4 days, it will reboot itself, making it harder to forcibly unlock. So we did review that last week, but then there was a researcher had reverse engineered this feature called the inactivity reboot. Basically, the researcher detailed in a blog post how exactly inactivity reboot was implemented by Apple, which did everything quietly without publicly announcing the new security feature. Based on iOS code, it was possible to confirm that the inactivity reboot was implemented in iOS 18.1, although 18.2 beta code suggested that Apple had still been making improvements on it. But contrary to what was previously thought, the security feature has no relation to the wireless connectivity. Instead, it uses the Secure Enclave Processor, the SEP, to track when the iPhone was last unlocked. And the last time unlocked exceeds 3 days, SEP notifies a kernel that then kills the springboard, which is the core of iOS, and then initiates a reboot. So I don't have a problem with this, honestly. I mean, if I was not using my phone and had to sit for 4 days, yeah, I would probably be okay with that. I'll start with you, Eric. Did you hear about this, and what do you think? What Apple did? Was it good that Apple did this and not really announce it, and just people found out about it?
Yeah, I think the way that they did it, 4 days is I actually almost think that, probably to be even more useful, it should be a little less than 4 days, because 4 days is quite a long time. But I mean, I think it probably at that point, if for most people they haven't, unlocked it in 4 days, it's probably because it's lost or something. But yeah, I guess, I'm trying to think why would Apple, it's always good for them to probably announce something, but I think they obviously did this probably for, people stealing phones and whatnot, are trying to get into them. Because obviously, I think the article said it's the before first unlock. It's much tougher than before the first unlock than it is after. Once Face ID or Touch ID can be used.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Marty? What do you think with this?
I think it's great. I think it has all sorts of great purpose. My concern is that if this researcher is able to backwards engineer it, does that mean there's a potential exploit in the system so bad elements can get around it, or we'll figure out how to get around it?
Yep. How about you, Guy?
I agree with Eric. I think that 4 days is probably too long. 4 days is a long time for somebody that's
true.
Into your
really
phone.
Think of that.
So if it was, and again, we're talking about a phone that's not being used. We're not talking about, they look it up, they look at the weather, and they put it down again. It's
right.
48 to 96 hours of complete inactivity. So right. If it was 2 days or 3 days, and if security is enhanced on a lost or stolen phone from a reboot, then yeah, I think that if it hasn't been used in 2 or 3 days, then yeah, go ahead and do a reboot. Make it harder.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I think 4 days is a little extreme. I mean, your normal iPhone user, people love their iPhones. It's rare. It's rare that someone's going to let it sit for 4 straight days.
4 days.
Before that would, I may say maybe 3 days might be more in line to this, but
even 2 days.
Possibly 2.
Seriously.
But then if Apple would have added 2 days, there would be an anarchy. People were going crazy.
No matter what they do.
Yeah, exactly. Apple is doomed.
You could say Apple has an app on the iPhone that will increase your life by 25 years. You're like, what if I don't want to live 25 years longer? Come on.
What if I want to live 27 years?
How dare you give me free YouTube?
Exactly. Last word on this, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm with everyone. This, I think, is a really good feature. I'm glad that Apple implemented it, regardless of whatever reasoning they had for not saying anything. And I think that the time to reboot should be significantly shorter. I think it should be 48 hours.
What about YouTube albums?
You know, if Apple wants to give me free music, I'm fine with that. And if you're freaking out because Apple said, "Hey, we added a free album to your account," you need to reevaluate the big concerns in your life.
You have other problems.
Seriously, the whole meltdown over the YouTube albums.
Yeah.
I was completely at a loss over that. And I mean, it doesn't matter if you like YouTube or not, but come on. If you're pissed off because Apple has a way to give you free music.
Well, they were mad
what is your
because
problem?
they couldn't manually take it off.
Oh yeah, they could.
I know.
Oh, right. Sorry. I was still all worked up about the first
Sarcasm.
part. Yeah. Excellent delivery. I salute you, sir.
Yes. Salute. So I always like to continue on. I have with this segment. I wasn't going to, but I'm going to anyway because especially since Eric's here, to be a little bit of in touch with Mac this week. The first one is I want to talk about a little bit is, and I was showing him my Mac Mini pre-show here. It's been 2 weeks since because I've owned it. I've purchased it right when it came out, and I agree with this article from 9 to 5 Mac is the invisible Mac that does it all, and it literally is invisible. And you saw it firsthand. The size of this thing is just incredible. But even more incredible, the one I've got is the M4 Pro, and the performance on this is just stellar. I mean, I'm very seriously thinking about. I mean, I've been using my M1 Pro 16-inch MacBook Pro, which is a workhorse. It's been working just amazingly great for me. That I may be tempted to, maybe move over to the Mac Mini, the M4 Pro. I've got the M4 as a second device as a beta device to play with as well. So, and cost wasn't too terribly expensive. That's the great thing about this. I mean, it's an absolute bargain. I mean, I already saw it with the I wasn't going to get too much into Black Friday sales because they're coming up now, and I'm already seeing Amazon selling the M4 base model with 16 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of solid state for $499.
Wow.
It's a full $100 off what Apple started off with. So pricing is pretty incredible.
Storage in them too.
Yeah, kind of. Kind of. I mean, it is removable, but Apple has really. I mean, I was watching YouTube videos where you actually have to desolder the chip off of the card and put a different chip on it. It's not as simple as taking the SSD drive out of this one and putting in another one. And the even weirder thing is the M4 Pro has a completely different designed SSD than the M4 does. I mean, the M4 Pro looks like, the M4 looks like a standard, small little NVMe, the half size one, but the Pro, it's like a long, almost like an L-shaped SSD NVMe. So if you swap them, I've seen videos of people have tried it and it doesn't work. So so I think we got a little time yet to see how people are going to reverse engineer to get this going, but you would be surprised. You would definitely be surprised. But this is a pretty incredible device. I know, Marty, you've got one. You've got a Mac Mini as well. Have you had some good experience with it so far?
I have basically taken everything I do on my Ultra Studio One and put it onto the Mac Mini Pro that I have.
Like mine.
And I can't make any noticeable difference. One thing I did some conversion of video out of Premiere, and I noticed that it was a little bit slower, maybe 1.5 times that it would normally take if I was running it through my studio. And I think that there was, Studio has many more cores in it, and that might have been a reason for that.
Was that an Extreme or just the Ultra?
Just the Ultra. There was a video. I was in the Portland Mug. They have a multimedia SIG, and last night I was working and I jumped in. And they showed a video of exactly the problem I'm considering when the new Ultras come out. Should I invest in a new Ultra, or should I just get a fully amped up M4 Pro? And this guy had done a test doing video editing on both instruments or both devices. And it was just remarkably the same, except for the it was 4 minutes instead of 2 minutes to get the video compressed out. But a lot of the other functions, when he was working through it, he said, I usually get dropout here or I get problems, and it's not happening with the M4 Pro. So it's kind of solved my problem. I think unless there is some compelling reason for me to upgrade, I don't need to go any faster, but I sure would like to have a desktop machine that is fully loaded for the M4 Pro Mini. And I'll do something with this other one, but right now it's working great. If I can find that clip, if I can find that video, I'll send it along for sure.
All right, great.
I'm kind of holding off on, because I'm still on the M1 Mac Mini, and it's still doing everything that I could ask of it.
Sure.
I'm waiting for the M4 Studios to come out and see some price comparisons and performance comparisons.
Sure.
I typically keep a Mac for 4 to 6 years. So whatever it is I get has to be affordable enough that it's not going to put me in debt for 1,000 years, and powerful enough that it's going to last me 4 to 6 years. So holding on.
I mentioned that I had the M1 Mac Minis, and that's 4 years now. But Apple's been very generous with their trade-in values. I mean, it was $230 I got for the two of them I had. I traded them both in, and it was definitely a good machine. But I only got it at the base model. You probably got it with 16
I got
gigs.
the 16 1 terabyte.
Yeah, so I was just the base 8 gig, the 256. So the comparison this versus that one is what is this? It's tremendous. So Eric, I got to bring you in on this with Mac here, and what. Have you been tempted with Mac Mini? I know we talked about pre-show, but you had looking possibly maybe a MacBook Pro or
a lot more than I have in the past. I had a Mac. I had a Mac Studio Ultra Mac. It was with the M2, and then I was kind of hoping they would come out with the Studio sooner, the M4 than they did, and they obviously weren't going to come out with an M3. But what I did was I sold my Studio and got a MacBook Pro M3 Max and kind of just maxed it out on everything. And really the performance is really good. And I use it as a desktop machine most of the time. And then, unhook it, I have a dock and, plug in, fill up all the Thunderbolt ports and and actually I do plug in the MagSafe power as well, because there was something on it about when you have it plugged in all the time that it may actually help the battery to leave the MagSafe power plugged in. Anyway, it made sense when I was reading it. But so I use that, and I want to see the M4, Ultra down the line and see what they are. I do a lot of video editing, use Final Cut Pro and Motion and After Effects and stuff, and so it'd be. The big thing is, and it was kind of like I think Marty was talking about, just how it exports or renders, and at the end, as far as because that seems like that's where a lot of the time comes in. Where it's gonna, when I had Intel machines, I mean, it was almost an hour that, and then that now eventually has been cut down to 15 minutes. So if that time can even be cut down more, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to add, Jeff, before we move on from this?
If I did not need to have a laptop as often as I do, I would be so tempted to just get the new Mac Mini because it is so powerful. There's a problem that I see people manufacturing for themselves with a Mac Mini, and I'm not seeing it as an issue. But there are different groups and lists that I'm on where people are basically having a stroke over the position of the power button.
Oh my gosh!
And I'm like,
oh god,
seriously, is that really your big problem? I run a MacBook Pro in closed lid mode and have for years and years and years, which means I have no access to my power button at all, and it has never been an issue for me. So I'm not getting the hate on where the power button is.
Yeah.
Somebody wrote a really good article with that and said the power button actually is useless when you think about it, because it's something you never push it unless there's a problem. And or to turn it on after it's been off. It's just so.
Yeah, I've had both my machines. Most machines are on all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you still don't hear a fan, which is the beautiful thing with these.
Yeah.
Real quick here, briefly, before we move on out to the news for this week. Sateki is going to have an M4 Mac Mini stand with a hub, up to 4 terabytes of extra storage you can add to it with an SD card and the USB ports extra. I know Marty and I are both drooling over this, but it isn't available yet. You got to go on their mail list to find out about it. I've got a link to the article about that in the show notes regards to that. Last thing I wanted to mention is already they've got all kinds of manufacturers coming out with mounts. So you can mount it under your desk. You can mount it above your desk, an actual under desk stand, and all kinds of crazy things. Even a rack mount that they've already customized, and a little foot stand, and all kinds of stuff. So take a look at those. I put a link in the show notes to Amazon with the different choices there as well. So that it's crazy stuff. I tell you. Yeah,
looks like a coffee table. Oh my god!
I know, the coffee table with the 4 legs.
The coffee table one.
Yeah, the 4 legs. Yep. So, all right, let's go ahead and move on to the news for this week. Apple is ending support for Safari bookmark syncing on iOS 10 and earlier. A support document was published this week that Apple said it was dropping support for Safari bookmark syncing on iPhones, iPads running anything of iOS 10 or earlier, and Macs running macOS Sierra and earlier, starting on December 18th of 2024. Apple said the decision is in accordance with its minimum software requirements for iCloud. So you won't be able to sync any of your bookmarks anymore, and I'm not surprised at all. I mean, let's face it, 2010, what is that? 14 years ago? I mean, I think that was a great run. Apple is always great and supporting devices for a long period of time for the most part. So I'd say, Levi, people, time to get new devices. I mean, you definitely got your money's worth. You're still using iPhones and iPads of that vintage. So
it's not going to support my 933 Quicksilver anymore.
No. Well,
I know. They're just looking for ways to screw you all the time.
Same thing is happening with iCloud backup. So it's going to, you're also going to lose support for iOS 8 and earlier. So they're being a little more generous with this. So you'll have to have iOS 9 in later, and Apple will notify customers by email to let them know that new backups for iPhones and iPads running iOS 8 or earlier will no longer be supported, and Apple will be deleting all existing iCloud backups of those devices as well. Wow. So, and this article actually shows somebody posted on, looks like X, that they got this email from Apple saying, telling you have to have iOS 9 or later. So again, what are we talking about now? 16-year-old devices. So
going to 21st century, please.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
you know, it's, for me, we see these articles and then there are going to be a portion of people who are going to complain or gripe. And it's sort of like, okay, well, go get a Pixel phone or go get, another device and see how much legacy they stick around with these things. Yep. You can find something to complain about with another device.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, anything you want to add on this, Eric?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Dave, all right, if you have a device that's that old that you really do need to keep around and you want to have backups for it, pay for Amazing.
Yeah.
It will back up an iPhone 1.
Yep. So
it'll be crazy to see the string of dongles you have to put together to make that happen, but it'll do it.
Yep, I agree. No, I'm
a string of dongles. Isn't that an alternative rock band?
Should have been.
Yeah,
could have been. It should have been.
It's my Spandau Ballet cover band name.
Thought so.
Yep. I keep waiting for that SCSI to USB-C port to come out.
Oh gosh. Moving on. AT&T's turbo indicator showing up in iPhone status bars for subscribers. AT&T has begun to display a quote-unquote turbo in the iPhone carrier label for customers subscribed to the premium network prioritization service, according to reports. The new indicator seems to have started appearing after users updated to 18.1.1, but that could just be a coincidence. The turbo feature provides enhanced network performance through prioritized data access, offering improved speeds and low latency for activities like gaming and video streaming. Previously, customers had to limit ways to confirm the service by enabled beyond checking technical network settings. So, oh boy, so this is what they charge. You can easily verify when that $7 a month add-on is on your line here. So I've lost complete faith with having AT&T. I dumped them many years ago. I believe a few of us here has done that as well. So, okay, whatever, AT&T, as far as I'm concerned.
Is that like blue check marks in X?
In X, yes. Yeah. Anybody else want to add anything onto that?
I'm an AT&T user.
Oh, okay, as long as you're happy.
Bless your heart.
I do not have. I do not have turbo. Yeah, I know.
Okay,
yeah.
No, exactly.
Came from beyond the grave.
Yeah, pretty much. A little bit of cord-cutting news. This was a kind of a big story this week. Comcast has officially spun off MSNBC, USA Network, and other cable networks into a new company. It's going to be all those networks and Sci-Fi and a number of others. And NBC is going to retain their assets to NBC Broadcast Network. And they're also going to keep Bravo for some. I guess Bravo's important, and then Peacock has really been becoming a big business for them. That service has really gone big. It's going to be a service called Spin On, and then Mark Lazarus, who is a media executive, will lead a company up as a CEO, and they're just gonna get it structured out here. So maybe it's more things to come. As far as I'm concerned, Comcast can get rid of everything because I've lost all faith in ever wanting to have to do business with them, but unfortunately, I have to do it in some areas of my homes here. In our lake house, we have no options other than Comcast, unfortunately. So, but been very happy with AT&T Fiber, and I will never go back. So, anybody want to add anything to that?
Screw those guys. I'm all about municipal broadband.
Yeah. And you had Comcast at one point.
I had Comcast for a very, very long time. And now I have fiber right into my place.
Same here.
So with these different services spinning off, I don't get why. Was this just a decision to break up the company in a way, or
I think they're trying to get,
does it serve?
They're trying to get I have a link to not only the article, I also have the press release from Comcast. They're just looking to spin off at our asset. They want to get their assets realigned, position it for success, and they want to go focus on just, like I said, the NBC television network and NBC Sports, and Peacock is probably their big thing, and Bravo has also been a big thing because the Housewives of Beverly Hills is so important. So I think that was what their transition was to spin it off, and it's called SpinCo. So that's going to be the name of the company.
Yeah, I think
so. Separate company, separate stock, but it'll be a subsidiary. They'll still have some ownership to it, but it won't be as part of the NBC Universal family of networks like it was. I mean, they got to diversify. I mean, Comcast is losing subscribers left and right, and rightfully so. From what
just because they sold these off.
No, it's not going to stop, but it's also going to let them realign what their business vision is. I believe
that's what cable setup. I use YouTube TV. Is this going to impact, where they're sending their services? So
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yes, it will.
Yes, it will.
I think they'll still,
because they'll have to basically every time they do one of these cutoffs, it's usually for two reasons. It's they're lost leaders, and they don't want to have them drag down the stock of the main company, or it's so that they can renegotiate streaming rights with all of the mega services like Hulu and YouTube TV to make more money for themselves.
Yep. Anything else you want to add to that? All right.
Those guys.
Yeah.
Those guys.
I'll tell you if I hate Comcast.
That's your standard answer.
Yeah, there's no love for Comcast here. So Last story I like to talk about this week is Apple Music. This actually was today as we record this. Billie Eilish, which is a huge mega music star, was named Apple Music's Artist of the Year. Apple did announce that today, and she's been named the Artist of the Year for 2024 for her extraordinary impact throughout the year. She actually received a physical Apple Music Award featuring a custom 12-inch silicon wafer. Since day one, Apple Music has supported the My Music and artistry, and I'm both honored and humbled to receive this recognition as Artist of the Year into my career, said Eilish. And Apple featured Eilish's music in 2018 holiday season when she was just 16 years old. So she's got a pretty tremendous career here. In addition, her soundtrack, What Was I Made For, from the Barbie film, won a Grammy Award. So now she's 22, and she's doing very well with her and her brother. So this is pretty cool. Anybody want to put on that?
No, the artists take control of their own careers, and that's what they should be doing. I'm not a big fan of, oh God, what's her name? Always at the Kansas City games.
Oh, Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift, yes. I'm not a big fan of her music, but she basically, kicked the demons out the door, took control of her own career, and is making oodles and oodles of money, and good for her.
Sure.
Most entertainers have a limited shelf life. So you have to, it's almost like professional sports. You have to take the opportunities where they present themselves, because that may not come around again.
Yeah.
Yeah. On a personal note, my daughter really, and she's 34 years old, really loves her music.
Mm-hmm.
And also on a personal note, I used to do Quaaludes. I don't have to do Quaaludes anymore. I just need to put her music on.
So this is a big money saver for you.
Repeated.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I don't get it. That's
drink a bottle of vodka, take a Quaalude. It's like your choice.
Yeah.
Not that I know.
She got a big wafer. I got a little 714.
I might have a show title here.
All I can say is Lauderdale in the 70s, man.
Yeah.
It was something. Gosh. I think.
All right.
That's what they tell you anyhow.
That's what they told me.
I think it's time to wrap up this week. Thanks all of you for being here. What a great show. Great to have everybody here this week, Eric and everybody, and I really appreciate you being in, Guy. So let's go ahead and wrap up for this week. Hey, Guy. Oh, gosh. Here we go. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can find me on Blue Sky and Mastodon. That's at InTouchWithIOS. Support the show by buying me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We would really appreciate it. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios, where we have 2 tiers available to support the show. We would really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe when you're notified when we're live streaming, which is on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/intouchwithios. Shout out to Brian and Webb and a couple others who made it onto the show, out to the chat this week. You can be there live. You can also watch the past live stream. I keep that up there, and as well as you can listen to past shows in audio format. You can visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we were discussed were flipped into that magazine. The link is in our show notes. You can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, including Pocket Casts, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, many others. But better yet, just go to our website, intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am Dave Ginsburg. You can find me on Blue Sky at DaveG65 at bluesky.social. Guy Serle, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you being here. And where can people find you?
Enjoy coming here. It's always a good discussion, and except for Jeff, really, really good co-hosts.
Yeah, this checks out. Yeah.
You can find me over at the mymac.com podcast. We are
1,000 episodes close.
6 shows away from 1,000 episodes over there at
Wow.
Wow,
that's a lot of Quaaludes.
Yeah. Gaz is regretting coming on the show 285 every single time. You can find me over on the X's as Mac Parrot. I've also jumped onto the Blue Skies, and you can find me as Mac Parrot there as well. Other than that, I am Vert Shark over on YouTube, and oh goodness sakes, just look for either Vert Shark or Mac Parrot, and chances are I'll be following along there somewhere.
We'll stumble.
Yeah, stumbling. Oh, Quaaludes.
Eric Erickson, thank you so much for being here. We always have a blast having you on the show. Where can people find you?
You can find me for Mac Eyes Only. Just Eric at formaceysonly.com. That's really the easiest.
Great. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, glad to be
Jeff
here.
Gamet. So glad to have you back. As we missed you last week. Glad you're back this week. And where can we find you?
Well, sorry I missed last week, and I'm glad to be back this week.
Yeah.
All right, so social medias, I'm Jay Gamet everywhere. I'm active on Mastodon and Instagram, and I'm working on being more active on Blue Sky and Threads. And then for shows, Tuesdays on Chuck Joyner's Mac Voices Live, here with you on Thursdays for In Touch with iOS. British Tech Network, Thursdays on The Big Show, Fridays on The Mac Show. Brian Chaffin and I do The Context Machine, and Patrice Brendamore and I do Retro Rewatch.
And you had that little bonus with Chuck Joyner, that the Battlestar Galactica. You got to check that out, too.
Yeah, we did. Okay, so we did crossover episodes. So we posted on Retro Rewatch 2 shows that we did in the summer on the British Tech Network. And one of them was about Battlestar Galactica.
Which one?
All of them.
In one episode.
Well, the first series wouldn't have taken that long.
Right. And we mentioned the only good episode in Battlestar Galactica 1980, which is the last one with Starbuck in it. And anyhow, but then we also talked about Mythbusters for the other special crossover episode. So we're back now to Stargate SG-1, Season 1.
Go give it a listen. It's a great show. Thanks, Jeff, for being here. And last but certainly not least, Marty Jencius, it's always a pleasure having you here. Where can people find you?
Well, Chuck just showed up in the chat room. I just noticed that.
He did.
He said, say my name and I'll appear. Sort of like Genie or Beetlejuice,
wow.
I guess.
Nice one, Chuck.
Yeah. Chuck Joyner.
You can find me at Jencius, Jencius at Blue Sky. Also on Monday nights with Eric Bolden at 9 p.m. live, if you want to watch it on YouTube, with Vision Profiles. And then Tuesdays with Chuck Joyner on Mac Voices Live, and Chuck and Eric and I did a show about the first 10 things you want to do when you get your Vision Pro. And it was kind of like, these are the top 10 things that you should do if you try it. And that's going to be on Vision Focus, which is kind of a crossover show that we do. But Tuesday nights generally with Chuck and the rest of the gang. Wednesday nights, a new show called Old Mac Gang. And it's all plus 65-year-olds. And talking about senior issues with Mac. And, these guys are great. They've got, personalities, but it's like your grandfather. We keep the shows to 30 minutes because anything longer would be too much. And then Thursdays here, of course, with Dave Ginsburg. So grateful to be with this crew.
Yep. And I would hope one of those top 10 that you talked about is getting spend Chuck's money to buy a Vision Pro, right?
Yeah, well, that was part of the setup in the show.
Perfect. That's all I could expect. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks for watching. We enjoyed doing the show, and I hope you come back again next week. Programming note next week, because of the Thanksgiving holiday, no, we are not going to take the week off. We're going to do a Friday recording show, and I have a special guest, Patrice Brendamore, is going to be on. Can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. But until next time, thanks again, and we'll talk again soon.